All right, so first and most importantly, and the only head coaching hire of as of now, Frank Reich will be the Panthers head coach next year. Of course, the Indianapolis head coach that was fired earlier in the season. Frank Reich, very good, very very good offensive head coach. Not a great defensive coach, but looking at the, of course, roster that he's gonna be given currently, they have very good defense with Brian Burns. They've got some good guys like Frankie Louvu, who's underrated. They've got where is JC Horn? They've got JC Horn, who is a lockdown cornerback, who I'm extremely high on. They have a good enough defense to where I think that if he focuses solely on the offensive side, I think that the Panthers could have a little bit more success than they did last year firing Matt Rule. It's going to be a big question mark of where he plans to go to for quarterback. Frank Reich, had a quarterback carousel in Indianapolis with, Carson Wentz. You had Matt Ryan. You had Phillip Rivers. At one point, Sam Elliott. Like, a ton of just mediocre old quarterbacks. So hopefully I think that their biggest step probably should be drafting a quarterback, potentially trading up, getting a young guy in the building that Frank Reich can hopefully develop. And then, of course, you have good guys like DJ Moore on the offense. You got Ike Mekwanu, who was a high draft pick last year. So stepping into not the best, of course, situation, but good offensive head coach. Let's see what they do at quarterback, and let's see what they do in the offseason moves, especially since the NFC South is so open this year. Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in the playoffs at 8-9, and the Panthers finished second, actually, at 7-10. They had a much better year than I predicted. So maybe they can get in the playoffs. Maybe they can sneak in next year. But moving on to the next coaching hire, Nathaniel Hacket, the ex-Broncos head coach. Obviously, the Broncos had 3 wins under him. Really, really horrible year all around. The Broncos were 32nd in points scored. Russell Wilson had the worst year of his career, but can't be entirely attributed to Nathaniel Hackett, even though it is a 60-40 split. Nathaniel Hackett, good offensive head coach, or good offensive mind, like also a good person. He's a player's coach, but not a good head coach at all because, once again, not hard on his players. He's very goofy. He's a guy that people are going to like, but you don't really want that with a head coach. And then, his structure is to get the ball out quickly. We saw what happened with Aaron Rodgers and Blake Bortles when he had his best year. It's to get the ball out quick, and it's that West Coast scheme. And Nathaniel Hackett's best attribution is the run game. Packers always had a good run game. The Jacksonville Jaguars, when he was offensive coordinator, also had an excellent running game with Leonard Fournette. But Russell Wilson is not that guy who gets the ball out quick. Javonte Williams also had an ACL tear, and it just did not work out in Green Bay. But this move isn't necessarily because of what Nathaniel Hackett brings as an offensive coordinator alone. They brought him in because of the connection to Aaron Rodgers. If we look at the roster, the Jets have a playoff roster if Breece Hall comes back healthy, of course, ACL tear. Top 5 defense last year, ranked number 4, and they have a wide receiver 1 in Garrett Wilson. They have a running back 1 in Breece Hall. They have, of course, a banged up offensive line, but also look at how many guys were on IR. Max Mitchell, IR. George Fant, IR. Elijah Vera Tucker. Nate Herberg. Mekhi Becton is not on this list. Dwayne Brown is going to retire. A lot of offensive line question marks, but if we assume Mekhi Becton comes back healthy, then it looks a little bit better. Good guys that just were inhibited by quarterback talent, guys like Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims, could take a step up if the Jets decide to go look for Aaron Rodgers. Of course, that's what everybody is speculating now. And if Aaron Rodgers comes into the building, the Jets immediately become a playoff team. I mean, 4-time MVP, has a good pedigree with Nathaniel Hackett, of course, winning 2 MVPs with him. So this is more of a like a B hire or more of like a C hire without Rodgers. But with Rodgers, this is an A because you get that offense completely locked down, and then Robert Saleh only has to worry about game management and then defense, and then game management, which is what he was good at last year. That's why the Jets were even having success in the first place. But the quarterback position was so bad. Next is the Cleveland Browns hire or defensive coordinator hire in Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles Super Bowl winning team. And, you know, he is stepping into a really good talent defense. Now, last year they did not have a good overall defense. They were ranked in the 20s. But, you know, you got Myles Garrett, who's always a first-team All-Pro. You have a lot of good cornerback talent, especially you got Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson Jr., Denzel Ward. And then for the safeties, you have good guys like, you have guys like Grant Delpit, John Johnson III. You've got Ronnie Harrison Jr. And then in the linebacker core, you have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who is, you know, a good young linebacker talent. So stepping into a very talented defense, he just needs to maximize their potential. If we look at the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles and we look at their defensive stats, we see that the primary goal of his defense is first, the secondary, having a strong secondary, having 19 interceptions in that year. And then the rest is getting pressure on the quarterback from Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, who was a Pro Bowler, and then also Malcolm Jenkins covering the outside, of course, another Pro Bowler on defense. Moving on, I think this is the best hire out of all of them. Brian Flores becomes the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, which is a great hire for multiple reasons. One is because the Vikings were one of the worst defenses last year. They allowed up so many yards, and they had such a good offense, and they were winning so many close games. But I think that the regression does have to come back next year. They're not going to win 13 games. They're not going to win 11 one-score games. That's just not going to happen because it's very inconsistent. But if you want to bring that a little bit consistency, if you want to have, 6 or 7 close game wins, you bring in a guy like Brian Flores, who has expertise basically in winning a lot of close games, and especially defensive games. Blackballed by the Miami Dolphins organization, he was almost blamed for the tank for Tua because he would just keep on winning games, and he was the main stake in that entire franchise until they fired him. But stepping into the defensive coordinator role, this is a weak defense because it's just filled with a ton of age. I mean, Danielle Hunter, wrong side of 30. Eric Kendricks, wrong side of 30. Jordan Hicks, another guy who's 30. Zadarius Smith, over 30. Pat Pete, over 30. Harrison Smith, over 30. You're stepping into a extremely old defense, but I think he's going to maximize as much potential as he can. They're going to still stay in this 3-4 defense. So hopefully they get hopefully their main idea in the draft is to continue to build up that defense because it's just weak. It's weak and it's old. And that's not a good recipe, but you're bringing in a defensive mastermind, in my opinion. I think Brian Flores is one of the best in the business at defense. And then with the final hiring as of recently, or that I'm going to highlight, is going to be Bill O'Brien for the offensive coordinator spot. I've been on this all year that the Patriots have not had an offensive coordinator, and that was one of the big reasons with my record prediction is why they were going to struggle. I had them going 8-9. They ended up going 8-9. And I think a big reason why that is because they were struggling on offense so much. They have a very good defense. They have such a good head coach. But the offense struggled at times, especially Mac Jones, who finished with 11 interceptions and a 36.1 QBR, just did not have a good year on all fronts. And that was mainly due to Matt Patricia, who had no offensive play calling. You know, he never called offensive plays before. But now they have somebody who has already been in the building. Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator from 2007 to 2011, played with Tom Brady. Tom Brady had some of his best years, even had an MVP year under Bill O'Brien. And you're looking to get the same, things out of Mac Jones. What did the Patriots do so well last year was they were getting the ball out very quickly to guys like Ramondre Stevenson, to Damian Harris, even Jacoby Myers, and, getting the ball to Hunter Henry a ton. That's where they did most of their damage. And that's basically what Bill O'Brien is going to do. If we look at the Texans, he was able to also develop Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson does not play like Mac Jones. Mac Jones even plays similarly to Tom Brady. So hopefully we'll see more quick passes and better offensive schemes, which he didn't have last year. Likely we'll see a rookie the rookie Mac Jones more than this year's Mac Jones. And that is going to do it for mainly all the hires. Of course, I'll keep everybody updated if anything changes, especially with the head coaching searches. But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.